He's on our TRS60 hotline right now. He is former Chicago Bull, former coach. He is Bill Cartwright, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on this Mother's Day. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm out here in San Francisco cruising.
You're out in San Francisco cruising?
Well, I'm driving my car.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's interesting you said that. Now, I correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a few years ago. I live out in the northern suburbs, and I thought I saw you. Correct me if I'm wrong. It could have been a drop-top Excalibur, a vintage car vehicle, and I thought it was you. I blew the horn at you when I was driving by. Driving down Dundee Road in the northern suburbs a few years ago, outside of Chicago. Does that sound accurate?
Excalibur?
Well, some type of vintage car.
Yeah, well, I can see you're not a vintage guy. Actually, I do have a 57 Chevy Bel Air. That perhaps could be it. But you're obviously not a car guy, because there's a big difference between an Excalibur and a Bel Air.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There is a big difference, but I can be honest with you. I was probably more in awe of the fact that I saw Bill Cartwright driving down Dundee Road in the northern suburbs with a drop top, as opposed to checking out the vehicle that he was in, because you turned the corner just as I spotted you. So forgive me for not recognizing the vehicle that you were driving in, but I certainly believe that was you driving it.
Well, there's no worries. You know, if you're a car guy, you would notice the car first. So.
You got it, brother. You got it.
That's definitely okay.
There you go. I appreciate it. If it wasn't a Mercedes, then I kind of didn't pay too much attention to it. Hey, Bill, thank you so much for taking some time out on this Mother's Day to join us. We really appreciate it. And of course, we certainly, myself, along with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, we want to we invited you on because everyone, especially on Sunday evenings for the past 3 weeks or whatever, we've been talking about The Last Dance and the Dynasty Chicago Bulls. And of course, you are part of the Dynasty in the 90s. You guys are rock stars. You were the Beatles, and you owned the world. And of course, you were a key figure as far as winning some of those championships. What was it like during that time in the 90s when you played in New York, the Big Apple? And the deal was made for you to come and play here in Chicago with, some of us probably believe he was the greatest of all time, even back then. But what was your feelings and your thoughts on coming to the Chicago Bulls to help win some championships?
Well, basically, it was, I came to Chicago in '88. So I was there when Doug Collins was the head coach. Mm-hmm. We had a young Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant. Michael was there, of course, but just when the core of the team got together. So just like all NBA teams, it was tough. It was tough to bring ourselves together. It was tough to be able to find ourselves, be able to play together. A year later, we ended up getting Phil Jackson as a coach and being incorporated to Tex Winter's offense. So I was there right from the beginning, and just like all teams who are really good on the verge of winning, that education with the teams you're talking about, with the Detroit Pistons, gave us a foundation, gave us what we needed to do to improve and be a championship team. So it was tough. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of chemistry, a lot of guys involved. Including Jerry Krause, guys like Jimmy Stack, guys like Clarence Gaines, their assistants, from our coaching staff. It was just a lot of work. So it didn't happen overnight, but somehow we gradually got there.
You know, Bill Cartwright joining us on our Rewind Sports 60 TR60 hotline, from joining the Bulls in '88 all the way to '94, was with the New York Knicks back in '79 and '88. And yeah, we certainly remember those times. And for those people who are probably too young to remember, the NBA was a different type of game, definitely compared to what we see today. But it was kind of like piggybacking off of the era of the 70s, because we remember, the great late Noam Van Leer and how physical he played along with Jerry Sloan and the backcourt there, it kind of, echoed what Chicago represented. But then this Michael Jordan character comes into Chicago. He learns the mentality. And here's the deal, Bill. Chicago, as you well know, is known as, the gangster town, Al Capone. And I hate it, but I understand it. And I think when Jordan came to town, he felt that vibe from the Chicago people, from the Chicago fans, and it was pretty much right up his alley. So when we played the New York Knicks, when we played the Detroit Pistons, we weren't necessarily on the same level, but we brought this gangster attitude, or Michael Jordan brought the gangster attitude to the game of the NBA. Did you sense any of that in playing with him when you came to this team in '88?
I'm not really sure of the gangster attitude, but what I did really see was that because of the style of play that we had, it was a fun type of basketball. Obviously, we had the best player in the league. We had a young Scottie Pippen. We had guys like B.J. Armstrong, Will Perdue, Stacey King, Scott Williams. So we had a lot of young guys who were good in their time. So we played a fun style of basketball, I feel like. So we gave the city something to look at, something to be proud of. And athletes, as you know, because of the '85 Bears, Chicago loves athletes. So we were able to just maintain that, not only winning our first championship, but winning 3 straight championships. So I think it was more what the city represented, and it was positive. And you're right, it wasn't a gangster type of a situation where it was bang, bang, shoot 'em up. It was something to be proud of. It was guys are representing the city and representing it the right way. So it was great.
The reason I use the description or example as far as the gangster mentality is concerned, and we'll get into this conversation, if you feel comfortable with it, is the fact that the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons and Isiah Thomas, who was the ringleader, it's my opinion that back during the day, and you can correct me, but it's my opinion that David Stern kind of in the league wanted a type of bad boy image. Detroit took on that persona, and they wanted to show everyone around the league that in order to win, you had to come through them. And with the rules the way that they were back then, they were going to do anything and everything they could do and get away with to win the championships. And so I think Isiah Thomas, growing up on the west side here in Chicago, and if people are familiar with the west side of Chicago, and I'd say Al Capone, but if you're familiar with the west side of Chicago, West Siders don't take any stuff from anybody. And that helped Isiah, that mentality, in my opinion, helped him elevate to who he is today as far as the type of aggressive ball player he was and the type of aggressive business person he was. But I think back then, he kind of took it personally and said, hey, you know what? I'm Chicago. I'm the baddest dude on the block, and I'm going to knock your block off. And then when this kid, Michael Jordan, came in, he said, hey, you don't know what Chicago is about. I may play in Detroit, but this is still my house. And I think that kind of fueled the battle that these two guys still have today. Am I on base, or I kind of off when I make that statement?
Well, I think at that point in time, now let's understand, the Pistons it took 2 years for them to overcome the Boston Celtics, who had their particular style of play. The Pistons, when they played, their style of play was very aggressive. Now, they would take a hard foul. They would get up on you, they'd push you, and do what some consider to be not very good. And that's not what you do as a basketball team. But let's face it, if the Detroit Pistons couldn't play that style of basketball, they couldn't win. And also, let's face this fact, the Detroit Pistons were good. The Detroit Pistons were a scoring team. They were a great scoring team. So while we had our 2 years of trying to get past them, those guys were better than us. They were a veteran team. They had already been through the battles that we were going to go through. And regardless of the fact that they beat the tar out of us for 2 years, thank God for that, because that got us ready to win championships. So I never had any ill feelings for those guys. You have to understand who they are, and that's who they are. So what we had to do, and Phil said this at the start of the year, hey, look, we got to bend and not break. And that's what happened. That's what happened for us. And we developed that year our style of play. Our style of play is not like them. So we have to develop who we are. We're going to move the ball, push the ball up the floor. We're going to play great defense, and we're going to play how we play. And that's what happened, is that we found our game to our greatest extent of who we were.
Hey, Bill, this is Dan Marver. I'm in the studio here with Jerry. How you doing? Can you hear me?
No, great.
Okay, good. You know, I was looking at your bio. Very impressive that you're the leading all-time scorer with the San Francisco Dons. There was a fellow named Bill Russell that played there, wasn't there? But in any event, after you left the Bulls and spent the year with the Sonics, you came back as a Bulls coach. I was just wondering. I mean, you had 2 more championships as a coach, right, with the Bulls?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you were there.
Yes, that is correct.
You were there for the last dance. So 22 years later, I've asked this question to a lot of people. I mean, I almost thought that it was like not really going to happen, the breakup. I thought Jackson, 82-0, doesn't matter. It seemed like Reinsdorf should have stepped in or something at the time. I just didn't understand it. I still am baffled to this day.
Well, look, and this is the interesting thing that happened, is that none of us own the Chicago Bulls. There's only one guy that owns that team, and there's only one guy that makes the ultimate final decision. So our GM, Jerry Krause, he can make a lot of recommendations, but I can promise you he makes no decisions. So as this goes on, and you understand from this last dance, there's got to be a good guy and bad guy, and I guess Jerry Krause, I guess he's the bad guy. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the real guy.
The real guy, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting. This last dance, I think for the hardcore Bull fans, they'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy watching it. They'll be able to have access to the planes and the practices and conversations. I'm hoping that it's going to be viewed in what it should be. Extraordinarily positive, extraordinarily special, and something that may never happen again, and not in this soap opera, Kardashian style of thing that's going on right now. So, it's going to be interesting, especially since there's nothing to do right now.
Yeah.
And, I'll take it in tonight, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we appreciated you being safe and everything, Bill.
Oh, extraordinarily safe. And I want to say this. Thanks to my friend Jerry Thomas for calling you guys and talking to Jerry. So, awesome guy. So, thank you for that.
Real quick before we let you go, and we do appreciate you taking your time on this Mother's Day to join us. A lot of people didn't know, if they weren't covering the team, if they didn't play with Michael, they were fans, they followed. But we get an opportunity through The Last Dance to look inside of practice and see what Michael Jordan was like. They pull the curtains back, so to speak, and it shows, what he was like in practice. We know about the scuffle that he got into with Will Perdue. We know about the punch to Steve Kerr. Real quick, what was it like practicing with Michael Jordan day in and day out during the season?
Well, I'll say this, is that, they're seeing what they see. they're wanting to see on TV. I mean, every day is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You have a scuffle every day. Some days there's a scuffle and there's other guys involved. That's just playing basketball. So for us, it's no big deal. It's just playing. We're practicing, working hard. So this is a little soap opera-ish. I don't know what the right word is, but just put it this way: it wasn't an everyday occurrence. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show, so just enjoy the show,
Right.
for what it is.
Well, it's unfortunate because I've seen some there are haters out there all the time, as you well know. There are people out there that are trying to knock everybody off their pedestal once they rise up to that. And it's interesting, some of the reports and some of the things that I've heard, during the past few weeks regarding The Last Dance, where, people were, well, Michael Jordan was this, or he did that, and he did this and that and the other. And I go, first of all, for him to, we say it's a great life, but, to be in the bubble the way that he is, everybody's got a breaking point here and there. But Michael is the way that he is and was the way that he was because, and he said it, I have a competitiveness problem. That's my problem. Gambling enough, he competes against everything. Without that nature of competition, the Bulls don't have 6 championships, do they?
Well, not with him. No, we don't. But at least what you like to say about Michael is that he's responsible for himself, and whatever happens, happens. So.
Bill? I'm sorry, Bill, you there? Yeah, we had a little we had some gremlins get in our technical situation. We didn't get a chance to hear your last comment. Can you repeat, please?
Well, I said the bottom line is that, look, Michael in his interviews, he's claiming responsibility for himself. That's all you can do. You can't blame anybody else. This is who you are, and good or bad, you go from there. So. Whether he wants to do something political, whether not, whether he wants to do something for somebody else or not, he's responsible for himself. So he's not going away from that, and that's for somebody else to judge. But that's his life, and you can do what you want to do. For us, for Bulls fans, you should just appreciate it because. It was a special time. It was a special time. We had special people. We had special coaches. We had special administrators. We had special players. So hopefully those days will come again. I don't know if it will, but hopefully it will. Because it was definitely a special time.
Yeah, it certainly was a special time, and we love to continue to talk shop with you and pick your brain because there's a lot much more that we can definitely talk with you about, especially with the current Bulls situation and what's going on there. But we hope this is not the last time we get an opportunity to chat with you on the Rewind Sports 60. We're going to let you go. Get ready for The Last Dance, and if it's okay with you, we'd love to reach out with you and talk with you more about the NBA season and the pandemic that we're going through, okay?
You can reach out anytime. I'd be very curious of your thoughts. Basketball's changed a lot now. That's a curious conversation.
Oh, it certainly is, and we certainly will be picking your brain. And again, thank you so very much for taking time to join us, Bill. We appreciate you.
Okay, guys, enjoy.
Be safe.
The Rewind Sports 60.